to Hispanics Causing Panic with your hosts, Calix and D-Style Boxing.
And thanks to those joining me live and those that will be joining us here on the archive. D-Style here. I'm being joined by the one and the only Calix. This is HCP episode 172. Man, we're getting close to that 200. We have a special show for you today. We're joined by the one and the only Glen Jennings, manager Glen Jennings, as you guys by now know. He's been on several times. How's it going, Glen?
I'm good, boys. It's great to be back on the show and always great to have a chat.
Absolutely. Now, those watching on the archive, make sure you share this on all your social media platforms. Hit the like button and, and all that good stuff. It's much appreciated. So much to talk about. First things first, Glen, since the last time we've had you on, there's been this emphasis on fight life management. And you've acquired new fighters, which we'll talk about. But first, why start fight life management? Why start to acquire more fighters why start to expand, as a manager? What prompted that?
Now, fair question. As you know, I've been involved in boxing a long time and management of my former company, which was called NES, a major security entertainment company over here in Australia. And in January of this year, after 41 years, I sold my security business, which allowed me an opportunity to free up some time. And I had plenty of opportunities to manage people throughout their boxing careers, but never had the time. So it was really just a timing thing for me. And I'll never be able to fully retire. I'm always going to be one of those guys that's always busy and looking for something else to do. But I've got 5 grandkids now, mate, so life's good. And I just thought, why not? There's some really, really good people out there that I'm now managing and helping on their career. So it's exciting. I like the boxing management, the business of boxing, and I just hope I can do a good job for all of my fighters.
Right, quite a few fighters there, and again, which we'll get to, but I know there's a fight life management kind of like venue in Newcastle that we're talking about just right now offline. Yeah. What can you tell us about that? And for those maybe in the area over there in Australia that may be interested in maybe
it's called the Fight Life Centre. It's in my hometown in Newcastle, and it sort of came about. There's a bit of a void for our younger kids, the kids and the amateurs and the juniors coming through in boxing to have an experience of what it feels like to fight in a really nice venue. A lot of the times they're outdoor under tents or they're in scout halls or basketball stadiums. And a good friend of mine here in Newcastle does some promotion work, and their company Ringside Promotions. My daughter's involved in that, actually, and so the whole idea was to build them something that would be exciting for the young kids, to give them that experience of what lies ahead. And so it's like a future fighter's pathway to give them a bit of a buzz. So we built it very similar to if you were coming out to a No Limit show with a proper tunnel and the lighting systems and a great viewing lounge and great seating. It only holds 500 people, so it's a perfect size for the smaller shows. But it was a good thing to do, mate. I'm really proud of it, and I think the kids are going to get a buzz out of it.
That's a nice venue. I know quite a little bit about like construction and stuff like that, so it's very well built. Calix is building his own home with his bare hands, so he knows about great venues and building. So
I can just see Calix now up there with his bandana on and a hammer in his hand and tapping away. And his wife thinks his wife hears the tapping and thinks he's building, and he's actually sitting up there with his cooler and beers.
That's right. Because if I built it, it would fall apart immediately.
Very good.
Oh, that's great. So this is for both amateur and pros that will be participating in this venue.
Yeah, we've got our second show coming up in about 10 days, which is great. We're doing an all-women's show called Women at War, just to celebrate the girls in boxing, because it really is starting to evolve into something special, the girls. So, yeah, I think there's 12 amateur fights and 2 or 3 pro fights. So, yeah, it's great, mate. It'll fill up. It's all but sold out now. So it'll be fun. And it's certainly not about being a huge money maker. It's just giving people an opportunity and a pathway to have somewhere really special to go to and shine for their little moment, you know.
Awesome. Now, a couple of fighters I want to ask you about. First, I want to start with Sonny Knight. I saw he was part of the last No Limit card.
Yes.
I saw a lot of controversy. I didn't personally watch the fight, so I can't really speak on it. But I saw a lot of controversy. I saw a lot of people give their opinion. They didn't like the decision. I saw some interviews with his trainer saying this is not really his division, but they couldn't pass up the opportunity to be on the No Limit card. What can you tell us about the fight, the controversy, and him moving forward?
Yeah, look, it was a great opportunity for Sonny. It was his third pro fight. And the opportunity arose when we had a 72-kilo fighter out of Melbourne put his hand up. And we were prepping Sonny for his division at 66. So it's a big jump. But he's a Indigenous kid from a place called Nyngan, which is way out west, a very small town, but huge amount of support out there. And he's a very good football player, one of the best that Nyngan's produced. So he had the opportunity to go to the National Rugby League, but he chose boxing. And he came to Newcastle and joined up with my good mate Nathan Swadling out at the box camp gym. And Nathan rang me straight up and said, "You need to come and have a look at this kid." So I went down and had a look, mate, and very talented, but also just a lovely human, very, very, very good person. So it didn't take me long to think, you know, I'll give this guy some help and manage his career and some guidance. And yeah, he's had two fights under me and one when he was still out in Nyngan. It was a very difficult fight, and we learned a lot of things. There are levels and there are weight classes for a reason. And to be honest, I think the 6 kilo was just too heavy for him to carry. I thought he'd done very well. I actually gave him the first 2 rounds, and I scored it pretty much as a close draw. Others agreed. Others said it went the other way, and the judges seen it our way on a split decision. So it's boxing, mate. You take it. You take the good with the bad. We would have been in the same boat as them had it gone the other way. Okay.
Let's talk about Billy Polkinghorn. He was on the card as well. What's the story with him, and what's next?
Yeah, Billy's a special, mate. I've said it a few times, and I'll say it again. I think he's probably the next big thing. Billy's born in Essex in the UK, a terrific young man, 27 years old, 200 amateur fights, so a big amateur career in Europe, and before emigrating to Australia with his parents. He is a superb fighter and a superb athlete, and equally, again, another terrific human being. Very, very skillful, very fast, and very powerful. And he's just now getting back into boxing. He broke his hand, was out for a good 18 months. And when he came back and wanted to join the pros, it's a lovely story. We spoke on the phone, and he asked if I would consider managing him. And he said, at the time living in Perth, which is similar to the distance between LA and New York. And I said, mate, if you'd like to come over and have a chat, we could discuss that. So he turned up the following week in a business suit, beautifully prepared, just knocked me off my socks in an industry where respect is not always running out the door, and presented himself beautifully. And I shook his hand that day, and we signed a deal, and away we go. So he's one to watch out for, guys. Billy Polkinghorn. We call him the Hammer. He's a West Ham supporter. He's a terrific guy, but yeah, absolutely. Everybody that's seen him rates him very highly. So I have great expectations, and there'll be huge opportunities for him. And we intend to fight him very regularly. In fact, he only just fought on Nikita's undercard, and he's back again on the 19th, which is 2 weeks away from today. So he's going to stay busy, very active there, and that's one of the key factors with my management is so long as they're capable, there's no injuries, and it's not silly, and it's not a race. There's reasons for it. I think activity is the key to success.
Okay. Speaking of maybe the opposite here, Vegas Larfield, it's going to be now almost a year since he's been back in the ring.
Yes.
After a tough loss. Well, what's the story with him, and what's the plan?
Well, Vegas, it's been an interesting year for Vegas. He became a dad for the first time this year. He's only a young man, so we gave him a nice rest at the start of the year. We had him scheduled to fight around mid-year, and he got very, very sick with a horrible flu. So he missed that fight. And since then, we've just had difficulty in matching him. He's in that weight group, one of those lightweight groups where the smaller guys, and he's a very gifted fighter, and it's difficult to match him. So we've actually got him scheduled now. He goes back in next month, and he'll fight twice before the end of the year. So Vegas is back on the agenda, and look forward to getting back in the ring.
One that I'm really keeping an eye on, Brandon the Bull Grach, had a big knockout, one of the best knockouts last year, and he's, I mean, if there's one thing going from him, it's going to be he's got power and he's exciting to watch. Tell everybody why he's much watch, and what's your plan, immediate and long-term plans with him?
Yeah, look, the Bull's a great prospect, mate. He had a very, very strong amateur career, and then he disappeared from boxing completely for about 12 or 13 years and went out west. He joined the army, and he was out working out west. And excuse me, I'm just going to sneeze in a second, but it's springtime, mate. The hay fever's running around over here. Excuse me for that. But yeah, look, Brandon had that great knockout against Liam Talivaha, which went around the world as a cracker of a fight, and he's since backed that up against another one of the top 5 knockout artists in Australia, a guy named John Amelia, another big islander that was known for his devastating knockouts, and Brandon KO'd him also early on in the fight. So on the back of that fight, we had him ready to go again. Again, activity is important. And he was on the Nikita undercard up until about 2 weeks before the fight, when he was coming towards the end of his sparring, and just a slight accident in the gym, and he tore the bicep tendon off the bone. So straight into surgery, literally 2 days later, and he's in the recovery mode now. So all going well for the Bull if we get him through recovery and the tendon repairs, and I'm sure it will. He'll be back in the ring maybe December or early 2025.
All right. Amber Amelia, the Pocket Rocket. I know she had a fight. She would have already fought last weekend or last week, but she pulled out. I understand it's for medical reasons. No one really knows why, but that's private information. But what can you tell us about her future?
I can tell you she's had 6 fights in 14 months, and she's probably, out of all of our fighters, her and Shannon O'Connell are on par in terms of their dedication to training, and sometimes to their own detriment. They overtrain and they push themselves to the limit all the time. And Amber just had easiest way to call it would be a physical meltdown where she had basically burned herself out. She was due to fight on the Nikita card, which would have been a great fight for Amber, but she was just struggling in every area. So we had a meeting and called it a day, and we're going to give her a nice break now, probably right through to the end of the year. We put her in for all the tests and everything, and she was literally just run out of gas, burned her body to the point where she now needs to just take some time off, rest and recover. No other problems in that regard. She'll be back as strong as ever, and we're really excited to get her back in the ring in early 2025.
Okay. Liam Wilson, obviously he had an impressive knockout win just a couple of months ago. And what is the plan with Liam? I know he called out Cambozas, right? George Cambozas. Is that a realistic option?
Oh, look, it's something that we'd love to see eventuate, but George is obviously got his own agenda, and we respect that. He's operating at looking for those mega fights, and good luck to him. Liam came up to lightweight for the last fight and performed well. It was a good, tough hit out against Huey Dib. He got a little bit of a shoulder tweak out of that fight, so we're not resting him up. He's training the house down, but we're just giving him a little bit of time to have some serious work with his coach and bring him along, and we'll be looking for opportunities for him towards the end of this year. And again, with a view to getting back onto that world title stage as soon as possible without putting him at risk. So he's a great talent, Liam. He's had two good fights against two highly credentialed fighters, Navarrete and Valdez, and I think he's still got time, and we'll look at improvements in every area of his boxing to see if we can get him across the line next time.
Y'all don't waste any time. That was only 4 months, 4-month layoff, and then he gets a KO victory.
Yeah. We don't, Calix. The whole thing. I think Australian fighters in general. I know I'm a little different in my relationship with No Limits, and the fact that we have great opportunities. You still got to have your fighters ready for them. So part of that is the mental conditioning that as a fighter you need to fight. I don't believe for 1 minute that sitting around for 12 months is good for anything that we do in this sport, provided there's no injuries or welfare issues. The fighters need to stay busy, and that's how they improve the craft, and that's how they mature in their sport. And of course, there's a payday for them every time. So it just makes sense to me, and I think the fighters love the fact that so long as they get a little break in between and they can refocus for camp all over again, that's what we do. And I think that's part of the attraction of how I manage the fighters and keep them busy.
All right. Okay. Somebody in the chat wants to know if you as I guess because you're Australian, what are your thoughts on the breakdancer Raygun? Did you have an opportunity to watch?
I seen it like everyone else. I'm still not sure the circumstances of how that came about, but it tell you one thing, it got a lot of media. It's like I've never seen that much media for something that was a bit of a failure. I don't think she scored a point. Look, I don't know the girl. She's probably a lovely girl, and she had a crack, but at the end of the day, it didn't go the way that the country would have loved it. And I don't know, I guess the rest of the world thought it was entertaining and had a bit of a giggle, but it's not something that I've got much of a thought on.
Yeah, I hear that. So I want to ask you about Shannon O'Connell. It's been a interesting year. There's been a lot of off and on news about her coming back, and then I know I interviewed her. She did mention about Beck Hawker getting really sick, and that fight just got derailed.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of moving parts and reasons for it. But what's going on with her? It seems she's looking at social media like she's been in training camp for months now. What's the story with her?
She lives in the gym. So what might appear as though training camps for Shan is just every day. She's probably the queen. Well, we call her the queen of Australian boxing, and I think it's well deserved based on the fact that every single day of her life, every minute of her life, is boxing. So the good news is that we have her lined up for a very big fight here in Australia in November, and we were actually looking at a potential overseas fight that we were good to go on. But we had a little issue that we had to deal with in terms of that. And so the Australian fight has since come about. So I think all going well, you'll see Shannon in the ring in November, and I can't announce anything yet because that'll be that's in the hands of the promoters. But and on the back of that, I think you'll see Shannon overseas again early next year. I'm working hard on that for her, and I can say that it's just great to see that for somebody that's had a complete shoulder replacement, who realistically with that sort of a surgery should be retired and enjoying, the easy things in life. This girl is in there every day working on improving. And for the first time in my time with her, she's actually jabbing. Her left shoulder's fully operational, and she's somewhat bewildered by it because she fought with such a bad shoulder for so many years. So expect exciting things, mate. And I'll keep you guys posted on as soon as I get a chance to formally announce it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because in her last fight, right? I mean, obviously Shannon is good enough to beat her last opponent with one arm.
Yes.
But what I was paying attention to was, is she going to use her lead arm? Like, is she actually going to use a jab? And I saw her stab into the body upstairs, like fully extending the arm. And I was like, whoa, I haven't seen that in a couple of fights now. Which is crazy to me, because to me it was like she's going to be lucky to even use her arm, but now it's like better than it was before.
Yeah, well, it reached a point pre the replacement of the shoulder on certain occasions, and I've seen this personally, where the poor kid was incapable of picking up a glass with an extended arm and lifting it up to chin height. There was nothing there. There's nothing driving it. It was literally just dangling, and the shoulder had collapsed on itself. And the surgeons basically went in with a chainsaw and hacked it out top and bottom and put a nice new big titanium thing in there. So that's usually for normal people, and I say that with the greatest respect for Shannon, is normal people would take that as, okay, well, that's the end of my career. But for her, it was like, no, I'm going to see how I go and just bear with me. And we had some hard conversations. We had a couple of arguments about it, and but I can't help but respect her dedication and her crazy desire to want to stay in the sport. She's not ready to cash out and disappear yet, and good luck to her. So I'll be backing her all the way, as a lot of people are, and hopefully she gets another go at a world title strap before she decides to hang it up.
Now, are you kind of when it comes to the Beck Hawker fight, because it got canceled for understandable reasons, but but as part of you, and I want to be careful how I work this, because I'm in no way, shape, or form suggesting that I'm happy that something happened to Beck Hawker, right? But are you, aside from that, relieved that maybe it wasn't going to be that tough of a fight, just to kind of test out her lead arm and her shoulder? Like, are you happy with that?
Yeah. It was a while ago now. Beck Hawker is a friend of ours, and she was a great, tough fighter, and she would have tested Shannon. But to be honest, mate, I don't think we can, at Shannon's level, having been at world title level for so long, I don't think we have the luxury of stepping away from that level. So whatever fight Shannon's going to be in is going to be a very, very tough competition. So,
Sure.
and I think we need to get Shannon back in for a big domestic fight that may open a door for a world title, and then move from there. So 2024, I think that's what we'll do. And she'll get an opportunity to shine and show just what she's capable of with two arms. And then we'll have a look at an opportunity on the world stage in 2025. And I'm really confident for her. I'm happy for her. Her sparring and her coach, everyone's happy, because we're seeing a much improved Shannon O'Connell, and now it'll just come down to Shannon in the ring and what she delivers. So it'll be exciting to see what she actually delivers come fight time.
Now, we want to take it to a fighter that Calix and I are big fans of. We've been for a while, and that's Nikita Tszyu. So, as always, I always have to wait for for it could appear somewhere on social media, and luckily No Limit does post his fights, so we're able to go back and watch them. Because in America,
I've caught a lot on the YouTube channel, because a guy you mentioned earlier, Billy Polkinghorn. I was watching him fight. I think it was, the guy's name was Casaleras, something like that.
That was Billy's second fight.
And I was watching him. I was like, this guy's sharp for a guy who's 2 fights in. He's very quick. He's a quick fighter, but
very quick. He has amazing IQ. He's a student of the sport, and his technical ability is we haven't quite seen it. He's still feeling his way back in, Calix. I think you'll see possibly going on from the next fight, which is only 10 days away. You'll start to see Billy really get into his comfort zone. And I tell you, mate, his coach and the boys, when he's sparring, he's destructive. He causes some drama. But he's one of those guys that does it in a way where he doesn't even look like he's trying. He's very relaxed, very composed, and he just takes care of the business. And that's a great sign for his future.
Yeah, but sure. The reason I brought it up, not to cut you off, D-Style, is I watch him and I watch Nikita. Yeah. And I see guys who are technical and capable of that, but they do not mind mixing it up at all.
100%.
And I think we, in America, we're very much in need of guys like that. So I think to D-Style's point, is there like a plan to maybe... Because one thing I've noticed about No Limit is the production value is good. D-Style has mentioned that to me on the phone as well. The production value is good.
Yeah.
You guys put on good cards. Is there a plan in the future to possibly have sort of like your own deal in America as far as broadcast rights?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Like my guys, my relationship with No Limits is tremendous, and it gives me great opportunity for all of the boys. And from Tim down, No Limits have delivered in every aspect that I could ask for. So there's always a degree of loyalty, and they continue to deliver. And whilst they do that, it's hard to consider other options. But if we quickly jump over to Tim, and we can come back to him, Tim has basically taken that step now into the overseas market in the United States. And No Limits, they're very crafty and very clever. They have a very, very strong relationship with Al Heyman, Louis DeCubas, and the boys at PBC. So without having to sign, without me having to go into a formal contract relationship with a PBC, I now have the luxury of a PBC outlet to put all of my guys on in the United States. And the relationship is there between myself and Louis and Matt, and we get together all the time. And so I'm in an ideal management position where I have a domestic, strong, great production value company, No Limits, doing great things in Australia. They're by far the leading promoters. And I also have the luxury now of being able to openly negotiate on behalf of Tim to have him appear with our partners almost nowadays, PBC in the United States. So I'm a bit spoiled in that regard, but that comes about through building great relationships and having a degree of loyalty that keeps all parties happy in these agreements.
As far as Nikita and the fight, the truth is, like, he's a very exciting fighter to watch, right? That's number one. It has to be said, right? And it's always a plus, right?
Yeah.
But that also comes with, that means that sometimes he's going to get hit. He's going to, go through adversity in the ring. And while he's passing adversity, is the plan still the same? Or are you thinking maybe we've got to slow down a little bit until Nikita maybe fixes some, defensive deficiencies or anything like that?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. We took some time to see where Nikita would lead us as a pro fighter. We always knew that he had power, and we always knew that he was dynamic, and we always knew from day one that he loves a fight. But to be honest, as a professional, that's great, but you also have to hone the areas that you're not as strong in, and we've started that process. And you would have seen on the last fight the fruits of the American camp with the high level of sparring in Las Vegas, and the big emphasis on head movement, body movement, in and out, and trying to avoid getting hit in that process. Now, you would have seen the first 5 or 6 rounds. Nikita was just on fire in regards to that. It was a totally different Nikita. I was really pleased to see that, and I know Coach Igor was as well. But as the rounds go on and you get a little bit more tired and you start to exchange in the pocket, and you've got a great competitor opposite you, Causin Masudia, there was a retreat back to a bit of a slugfest, and we're well aware of that. And so next camp for Nikita will be an improved defensive effort for the latter rounds when you are a little tired and your gas tank's starting to drain a little bit. But one thing that never leaves Nikita is a rabid spirit to, regardless of what comes and what gets him, he's coming back. And he got tested with Causin. It was a great fight. He got tested in those later rounds, and but every time he did get tested, his resolve and his answer to that is to come back and punish for being tested. And that's what you guys are talking about. That's that excitement factor that we don't necessarily want him to be the guy that accepts that it's okay to get hit that often. And now our plan is to now work super hard on defensive mechanisms to make sure that he doesn't get hit that hard and that often going forward.
Yeah, it's like a catch-22 because as a fan, right, people love it because he's giving them great fights, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's kind of like, hey, this is a great fight. A lot of people aren't complaining. However, there's also this is the sport of boxing, and a lot of diehard boxing fans analyze the sport from a technical aspect. Right. Yeah. And that is one of the, if you want to call it a criticism that people have at the moment. I don't necessarily get too bent out of shape about it, but a lot of people just feel like, okay, at this point, after 10 fights, I think some may have felt more that Tim was more advanced than Nikita was after 10 fights. Would that be fair to say?
No, I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, if you...
I don't know what happened. This is live StreamYard, so I believe Glenn probably got a phone call or something and kicked him off. So he'll be back in a little bit. Let me get MAW's super chat really quick. MAW, I appreciate the support. This is hello. Boxing fans, smash the like button, please, folks. Sorry, late. What did I miss? What's Tim's plan for beating Murtazaliev, Fondora, or Bud? Fondora 2. We're going to definitely ask about the Tim Tszyu for sure. I just had a couple more questions about Nikita, and then we'll get to. We have not asked any Tim Tszyu questions yet, so we're going to definitely get to that in a little bit. Any thoughts so far, Cal? That's what I missed.
StreamYard. This is what happens with StreamYard.
It does.
No, I mean, I'm interested to hear what he has to say about Tim Tszyu, but not only Tim Tszyu, but the 154-pound division. I think we got it back.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. Not sure what happened there, but I lost you for a second.
So the last thing we heard is you don't agree.
Yeah. I think if you look back at Tim's 10th fight, whilst they're completely different, you can't draw a line as to similar styles. They certainly aren't. But in terms of Tim's 10th fight, we were still working on maturity for Tim and him having an understanding of the levels that he was moving up to. And he had some great fights. And but I think Nikita at 10 fights is in with much stiffer competition than Tim was at 10, and that brings out a different Nikita. But I'll defer to what you said. I agree with what you say. I think that going forward from 10 fights, and we talked about this before. I've always used the number 12 as when I think Nikita, when most of these boys can reach a point where they're no longer at that rookie stage where they find their own way through. But from a coaching perspective, I know Igor is very big on now. Nikita's attack is good. His power is good. His technical ability is good. He's very exciting. But we really need to take a hold of his defensive program and make it better for him. Otherwise, he's going to take on too much damage, and none of us want that. Now, in terms of entertainment, does that change Nikita? Well, I don't know. Nikita, with great defence, will still be that exciting fighter that pulls off some amazing things. I just don't think we'll see the damage on him after each fight at the press conference. So my perfect world would be that we get Nikita's defence up to a point where he's fighting at the highest level and not taking on so much damage, but still having great fights and exciting fights.
One thing that I was interested in, you have the Charlo brothers, right? And similar size, but one campaigned at 154 which would be super welterweight, and then one campaigned at middleweight at 160. Yep. I guess to stay out of each other's way, sort of. Nikita is also campaigning at, we call it 154. You can call it super welterweight. Is the plan to stay there, or there is just a huge, I'm sure you know, middleweight is just a terrible division. And I think it's going to become even more terrible as Janet Beck moves up. 2 belts are going to become vacant. And there are things happening there. Is it possible to see him move up to middleweight in the future?
Anything's possible. Right now, we're very comfortable at 154 for Nikita. And as you know, 154 is becoming red hot. And Tim's right in the thick of that. And October 19, which we'll talk about soon, gets Tim an opportunity to go back to the top of the 154s. But for now, I think Nikita is comfortable. He made weight very, very comfortably last week. And there's still opportunities for him at that 154. So Nikita has the frame and the body to easily go to middle, and so does Tim. But it's not something as a team that we're talking about right now. If something outstanding was to arise that gave us a sense of excitement and purpose to go to 160, we would look at it as we do with every option. But right now, I think both boys will stay at 154 at different levels, of course, for now. But ultimately, I think the boys will move up because they're getting bigger and heavier over time. So, and like everything, they're always looking for a challenge. And when you fight as often as the Tszyu boys do, it doesn't take long to run out of opportunities. But right now, 154 has too many to think about.
I want to ask you about, he's not your fighter, but he's been talking a lot about your fighters, is Michael Zerafa. He was on the card, and I know I saw the promoter No Limit, Rose say, let's do it as far as the fight. Is that the plan? Is Nikita Zerafa, even if it's not next, but is it somewhere in the near future?
Look, it's there as an interesting option should we want to take it. There's a lot of history there. The Australian public, it would be one of those fights that would sell out a stadium of 20,000 over here. It'd be big on pay-per-view because there is a long history of Michael Zerafa, Tim Tszyu, and that ship's sailed. That's just never going to happen. Oh, yeah. But Nikita is. Nikita isn't. It's possible. I mean, I don't discount anything, but I look at every option and every offer and what's the best movement for Nikita going forward, and that will get my consideration when the time's right. No limits. Of course, they're promoters. They want a full stadium. They want a big pay-per-view audience, and it makes sense for them. And in some respects, it sort of makes sense for us too, because we're certainly not worried about the opponent, Michael Zerafa. We're more interested in the fact that it's another chance for Nikita on a big stage and a great commercial opportunity for him to earn a good dollar. Michael will offer us a great fight, but there are other offers in the mix for Nikita as well. And it just depends now on where we go when we go forward with Nikita. He's just won the IBF regional belt, so he's in the top rankings now, top 15, and so we now look at that as a turning point for Nikita to start looking forward to more regional titles, and ultimately heading overseas to start on the international scene. So maybe we do one more big monster show in Australia with Zerafa, and we have some fun and enjoy it and get a good commercial outcome and move on then to the bigger and better things overseas.
So as far as, because I've seen some of his interviews, Michael, and he's like strongly insinuating that his contract or whatever it is, he says, is the fight he just had, and then the two Tszyu brothers. Right? That's what he's kind of insinuating.
No, that's nonsense. The No Limits contract is basically my understanding is I think it might be a 3-fight deal, but there's no fighters attached to it. There's no names attached to it. You can't have a name attached to a contract unless two parties agree. And there's been no discussion with me in relation to terms for Zerafa or Tim. So for Nikita or Tim to fight Michael. There's been chats between myself and Matt Rose from No Limits about Nikita and Zerafa, and we both agree that it's potentially a fight, but that's as far as it's gone. So if someone tells you that these fight deals are done and contracted, you know that that's nonsense. It doesn't work that way anyway. How could it be contracted to fight Tim Tszyu when he's fighting for world titles in the United States? So that doesn't make any sense.
Right. So, well, Zerafa's going to do what he has to do, right, to get his name out there. So it is what it is.
Yeah, 100%. He's the bad boy of Australian boxing, and I spoke to him. Like I speak to Michael and his team, and I spoke to him at the open session of the Nikita fight, and I just said, mate, do what you do. Be the bad boy. If that guarantees you some fights and you get a payday, I said, in every sport, it's tribal. There has to be a good guy and a bad guy, and at the moment, you're capturing some noise with the bad guy. Keep it up. It doesn't affect us. We're not worried one way or another. We don't comment. We don't get involved. I mean, they asked Nikita, and Nikita said, "Yeah, look, whatever." The general answer from my guys is that whatever management and promoters come up with, we'll be happy to turn up. So I get what Michael's doing, and you can't blame the guy if that's how he wants to do his business. Good luck to him. I don't really have I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the nonsense that he says, but I can't control social media. The day you try and do that, you might as well just throw your phone in the river.
I will say, before we move on to Tim, objectively speaking, just a segue, the ship has sailed for Zerafa to fight Tim. At this point, it will be so many steps backwards for Tim. Tim would probably you would probably get criticized for making that fight for Tim.
No. Look, after when it all started after the Newcastle affair, where the fight fell over, we kept on moving forward, and that's what we do. And I know it's a cliche, but it never crosses my mind about a backward step. It's just not in my DNA. So whenever someone says Tim Tszyu, Michael Zerafa, it just doesn't have an effect on me. It's not going to happen, and the reason it won't happen is because Tim Tszyu will be at the top of his game for a long time to come. And unfortunately, Michael isn't going to be anywhere near that level. And commercially too, in terms of Tim's time frame and the window he has left in boxing, it would be impossible for me to step back to a fight on that commercial level when Tim's earning capacity is so much more than a good domestic level fight, which Zerafa would be for us. So it doesn't make any sense, and I think the boxing fans that are listening in will understand that you're not going to turn back a multi-million-dollar fight for a domestic fight when you're at the top of the tree. That's just not going to happen. So we move on from that. But if exciting opportunity if Nikita does go into a Zerafa fight, but there's no guarantees, mate. I've got other options that I'm looking at for Nikita that are all moving him in the right direction. And if it was going to happen with Michael, I would tell you and be honest, it would have to be in the next short period of time, because Nikita will have gone past that domestic level very quickly.
100%. A lot of people in the chat agree that ship has sailed. It's been long gone. Yes. You know what I mean? It's like, 100%. That ship's in the bottom of the ocean with the Titanic at this point. You know what I mean? But let's talk about Tim Tszyu a lot. Just I don't even know where to even go with it other than this. So I want to start with this, Glenn.
Yeah.
First, No Limit even announced that, he's gonna, Tim's next fight's gonna be in Australia. I think they had given, I believe, like a September date, or I might be wrong about that. I forgot the date, but there was a big announcement done. They were putting polls. Where should Tim's next fight be? And then the IBF hit everybody with the big news that the fight has been ordered. And then before we knew it, it was kind of like some radio silence, and then recently there was some rumors, and then now it's been official and announced that the fight's going to be in Florida. Tim Tszyu will be taking his talents to Florida, like he's LeBron James back in 2010 or something, right? So he's going to go to Florida, right? The Sunshine State, and a Russian versus an Australian in Florida. It will be the first prime free event. It will be non-pay-per-view, which I think it's good for visibility.
Yep.
Tell us the whole thing. Like, how do we go from an announcement that he's going to be back in Australia, and then the IBF drops the news, and then we're here, and then we're in Florida?
It's an international world of mystery, isn't it?
Right.
How these things come about. It is an interesting one. We were absolutely negotiating on a fight for Tim in Australia, based on the fact that we were looking at getting Tim an international opponent to stay active. Now, remember those two words, stay active, because there's some other stuff that spins around those two words. And so we did that announcement in good faith, planning on moving forward. And then, as you know, there was some noise that had come out earlier about the IBF, but nothing concrete. And then it was announced, and of course, the opportunity was sitting there right in front of us, and we jumped on it straight away. Jumped on it and said, "Hey, we want that opportunity to fight Bakram Murtazaliev for the IBF 154 belt." And so negotiations went on between the two teams. It was a difficult negotiation. There were some things that made it a little bit difficult. We were hopeful of bringing that fight to Australia, and that ultimately didn't come to fruition. So, as you know, Matt and I went to the United States about 3 weeks ago with a view that we would come home with it either nailed down or not, and we got it nailed down. So that was the little radio silence thing after it had come out. We just needed time to get with the people and get it nailed and done, and we achieved that whilst we're in the US. And then it was a courtesy for PBC from our end to say it's your show. We No Limits are a co-promoter on it, but PBC wanted to finalise, I think, typical logistics stuff, the venue and all of that, and where it was going to land before they announced. And then it was going to be announced last week, but then they thought, well, we'll hold off till after Labor Day weekend. There's a lot of boxing chatter in the US at the moment with Canelo coming up, so good time to formally announce it. And we've known for a while now, but of course we just respectfully wait for PBC to do their announcement. So we're all happy. Tim's camp hasn't changed. We've rolled him on into this camp, and so it's never simple, mate. It's not as easy as people see, and we're just being open and honest about it. For us to get another opportunity to put Tim in for a world title fight so soon was an unbelievable opportunity, and we were very, very proud of being able to deliver that for Tim. So it gives us now that opportunity to put him back onto that level at 154 as a world champ. We've got to take care of Murtazaliev first. And as for Florida, there were a couple of options. One of them was Minnesota, and we've already been there, and it wasn't a great experience, and it's not somewhere we want to go back to. So, but we also get to the PBC. It's never, a Russian Murtazaliev doesn't have a huge fan base in the United States. We know that. Tim Tszyu has a great fan base in Australia and building nicely in the USA, and so it made sense for it to be in a smaller stadium type arrangement. And to be honest, mate, I wouldn't have minded where it went. We're just happy to get the opportunity, and Florida, the Sunshine State, sounded good to me.
The was it Murtazaliev? I always butcher his name. Good fighter, by the way. 22-0, 16 KOs. He's a legit champion. It's not an easy fight, especially
No,
coming off a
100%,
loss.
100%.
I always butcher his name though. I'm just bad with names. But was it him not wanting to go to Australia as the champion? Because obviously Tim Tszyu is the bigger name, the draw, but he's the champion at the end of the day. Was it him not wanting to go to Australia that landed it in the U.S.?
Oh no, I think it was more to do with a crucial member of his team not being able to.
Oh.
So it was nothing that serious or nothing that exciting. It was just a bit of a roadblock, and to be honest, again, in staying active, those sort of things aren't going to deter us. It doesn't matter for us where the venue is, and it would have been lovely to do it in Australia. We would have had a packed stadium, but you don't always get your own way, and we're at the international level now, so those things aren't going to stop Tim Tszyu from fighting, and we move forward with great confidence, knowing that Murtazaliev is a huge test, and 22-0, he's 6 foot tall, and he's an Eastern Bloc Russian background. None of those are easy fights, but we're very confident that Tim will have the goods to take care of him, and we expect to bring that IBF belt home with us, and we will continue on with Tim's roadmap. And I will tell you, we won't be sitting on our hands. I expect to fight Tim again before the end of 2024.
Woo! I wanted to ask you that too. Like, Erickson Lubin's name keeps coming up, and when that happens, people always ask me, why does Erickson Lubin's name keep coming up with Tim Tszyu? Why are they stuck on Erickson Lubin? What is the deal with Erickson Lubin?
Well, I'm not so much stuck on Erickson Lubin. He's been in the mix a couple of times, and we were looking at him pre-Murtazaliev, and I mean, there's I won't say there's any history there, but it's a fight that we think is a great fight for the Australian market. I'll tell you why. What does really well in Australia, you see when Tony Harrison come out, it was a huge event, and Tony brought that typical American boxing culture with him, and
the brashness.
All of that. But Erickson Lubin is a very, very well-known name in the US. He has great credentials. He's great at selling the fight. He's just one of those guys that really offers a great opportunity for Tim to fight in front of a full house in Australia. And so the one we wanted, and the one we've always wanted, is Jermell Charlo. That's the fight we want.
Where's he at?
What's going on with
that? We're still hopeful of that. We're still hopeful that he came back recently and made a big announcement. I'm back, and everyone said, "Back? What does that mean? Back off holiday? Does that mean back off holidays or back from?" We don't know what that means, but Charlo is one of those fights that, like Harrison, like Lubin, they're great names. They're great. They bring a real excitement, and Australian boxing fans, apart from pay-per-view, are robbed of the opportunity to see these guys in real life. And there's nothing like a live fight night when you've got a Tony Harrison. And I wish you guys could have seen the atmosphere at the Harrison fight. That's on par with the best atmosphere I've ever seen in the US on a fight night. It was mad, and the Australian public lap it up. So there's part of us, and for Tim, part of it is a desire, if we're going to do a return fight in Australia, let's make it one of those fights where you've got a great name and a great narrative to build on. And Lubin, Charlo, they're the names that come to mind. And I don't know if that'll be the case, but I don't think we'll be fighting a obscure name in Australia. It'll be someone that brings to the party a special atmosphere.
Now, we have a question from somebody in the chat here. Mark Boxell, thanks for the support, brother. He says, salute HCP and Glenn. I heard Turkey is mad at Tim because he refused to hold his excellence hand. Looking forward to Tim becoming two-time champion. Mexicans for Tim Tszyu. Hey, shout out to you, brother. There you go. Hashtag Mexicans for Tim Tszyu. Glenn, what is this? In all seriousness, what is the story with Turkey? And because he just spoke very dismissive of ever working with Tim Tszyu ever again. Like, what exactly happened?
I don't really know exactly what happened. It's a hard one to get a handle on. There was a discussion and there was some talk about a fight for Tim to go to Saudi, but it wasn't until February of next year. And as you know, the two words I mentioned earlier, it doesn't work for us to keep Tim sitting on the sideline for anybody, for any fight, for any promoter. That's not Tim Tszyu. That's not how we do business. And as you know, we were at the time deep in negotiations for Murtazaliev, and it's very difficult to abandon a roadmap that leads your fighter to a world title belt at 154 that places him back at the top of the game, and knowing the opportunities that follow that, to sort of jump ship and move into another area where you're waiting for 7-8 months to fight in Saudi. I have no real problem with anything that Turki Alalshikh does. I see what he does and how he does it, but in our case, it doesn't quite fit with the plans that we have for Tim, and there's also a degree of loyalty that comes with when you have a fighter like Tim in the 154s, and you see all of the opponents that we're looking at for Tim for the next 18 months are all associated with PBC. It doesn't make a lot of sense for us to go outside of that arrangement. That's how I see it. I certainly don't rule out ever doing something with them if an opportunity comes, or if Turkey presents an opportunity to work with us and our friends at PBC to do a show. We'd be more than happy to work with him. I'm not sure why it became such an issue, and I really don't have much of a comment on it, to be honest. For me, this is business, and for him, it's business. And I would look forward to the day where we can do business. But it's one of those things where when you've got such a solid path and plan ahead, and Tim's commercially doing very, very well, it's about the right decisions, the right time, and we're happy with our decision, and Tim's happy with our decision, and we move on and we stay active. I can't ever see Tim Tszyu sitting around waiting for a potential fight that doesn't actually exist to perhaps pop up in 7 or 8 months' time. That's probably the easiest way for me to explain it. There's certainly no beef between us and Turkey in that regard, but I think he's a go-getter. I don't think he likes to be held up or slowed down in what he wants to achieve, and I have no problem with that. But there will be others that have plans in place, and there are already others that have said no for their own reasons. But we're not jumping into that box with those. We're just saying that right now for us, Tim Tszyu's got a great opportunity to win a world title, followed up by great opportunities to defend, to even unify. And it may mean that one day we will all get together, but when the time's right, that'll be awesome. We look forward to it. But until then, we'll continue doing what's best for Tim from our perspective.
So it seems to me, you mentioned the picture at 154 and the PBC. One fight that it's rumored out there, I'm starting to hear things that Fundora and Spence for December is a real possibility. I don't know if that's true or not. We'll find out. But is that the winner of that fight and possibly fighting Lubin in, say, December, staying on the timeline with those guys, is that a possibility for a unification for 3 belts next year? Fundora, if he wins, Spence, if he wins, maybe even bigger.
100%
rematch for Fundora.
100%. We're watching that with interest. My understanding is December is looking pretty good for that fight, and of course we would be provided we have the IBF belt. We would absolutely look at taking the winner of that fight to unify those other 2 belts. That is the most sensible thing to do. You can't hide that. Anyone in boxing could see that would be the road path for Tim to go down. And yeah, absolutely, we'd be looking at that. On the back of that, there's other opportunities that'll arise, and some of the big names that we mentioned earlier, we would love to finally get Charlo in the ring in 2025. We would be welcome to unify all the belts at some stage down the line. Who knows? It's a funny world. Once you've got the belts and once the unification fights start to come, the interest just goes through the roof, and there's opportunities that pop out and chances to showcase Tim. We would love ultimately to be undisputed at 154, and that's a long-term deal, but we are always confident that Tim Tszyu can land that, and we only got sidelined by an elbow that looks like a butcher's knife, and so nothing. We're just going back to where we were. That's the plan. But yeah, Joe, I think that's a great opportunity, mate, and it might be the rematch that we can pull any time with Fundora if he wins, or it may be Errol Spence. Either of those, we'd be super happy to entertain.
Do you expect Bud to stay? It just seems to me like Bud's not really interested in 154 the way a lot of us thought he was gonna possibly make an undisputed run. It just seems to me like this Bud versus Fundora fight's not going to happen. It's going to be Fundora versus Spence. Do you agree with that? And by the way, what did you think of Bud versus Madrimov? What did you think of his performance in that fight?
I think in all honesty, I think 154 for Bud was an equaliser in some respects. The dominance was not there. Madrimov done well, but Bud couldn't get rid of him. And Tim Tszyu is a big 154. Fundora is 6'6". These are all really, really different challenges for Bud. Can't question his ability. He's the best in the world for a reason. But when you go up in these weight classes, everything changes. I thought it was a good fight. Technically, I thought he was good, but it certainly wasn't a dominant Bud Crawford that we're used to seeing, and I think that's a bit of a general consensus. He won the fight, but Madrimov was solid and showed that a good size 154 is not that easy to take care of.
This is a brutal division. It is. Like, this is a deep. I think it's the best division in boxing. D-style.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Because I was watching, I wanted to get your opinion on this too. Virgil versus Buhacek, and that was supposed to be y'all's fight, I think the week before in LA.
Yeah.
As you were watching Virgil against Buhacek, Buhacek is a tough fighter, but as you're watching that, was it going through your head that, man, I think we could have got Virgil. I think we would have won that fight as you're watching?
Oh, we always believe we had the goods on Virgil. That's not being overconfident. That's just how we roll. Buhacek impressed me the previous fight as well. He's a tough bit of gear, and his fitness is amazing. And it was a good fight. It showed to me that, again, Virgil coming up to the 154s, these guys go from being very, very dominant, very, very sort of almost special in the lighter divisions to becoming much more. What's the word? I won't say it was even. It was a great fight in terms of what both boys brought to the ring, but Virgil didn't dominate, and he didn't show us what we thought he might show us at 154. Great fighter, and that's another fight that we'd love to have one day if the roads line up. But we walked out of that confident that Tim handles both of those boys, and it was good to sit there ringside and watch them, and they put on a great show, and it was highly entertaining, and we were enjoying it. We were loving it. But I do believe that Tim handles either of those guys, and that's not, again, being cocky. That's just where we believe Tim Tszyu sits in the 154s, and hopefully we get the chance to roll on from that. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about Virgil at 154?
I do think Virgil's a buzzsaw. I think he's a really good fighter. But he does have like that tendency to kind of brawl and like he loves to fight, obviously.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's the way you want to fight. If you're going to fight a Tim
yeah,
Tszyu. So I would expect him to fight a little more intelligently if he's going to fight Tim. I will say
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Because he can't really afford to get hit flush like he was at times, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's what I'll say about Virgil. He's that fighter that we've talked about that's really exciting to watch, but there's some defensive deficiencies that people have pointed out with him.
yeah.
But offensively, he's a machine. I will say that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you guys have seen it as much as I have. It's probably only been the last, I don't know, mainly the last 12 months, 18 months, there's been this little shift in boxing where everybody's now talking about jumping up in weight classes and multiple weight classes and, guys going from 147 to 168 and all of that. We never used to hear that. That was never a discussion that was talked about. There was the odd one or two that might go up but they go up and stay up. But these guys are going up and down like an elevator, to suit themselves. And I just don't know if when you study a fighter that you're going into the ring with at your weight, that pound for pound, there are similarities. But how on earth do you prepare, and how on earth do you even know, even if you went up in sparring, if you got two weight divisions, how do you prepare for that, on a fight night to deal with the additional power that guy brings? And it doesn't matter if you're a buzzsaw. If you've got a big 168 fighting a guy that's come up from 154, how do you get ready? How do you know what's coming? And I think what's happening is these guys coming up to 154, some from 140, gone to 147 and then to 154, are starting to get in there and realising the first two rounds when they're getting hit, like shit. This is yeah. What am I doing here? And so they get through it. They win, lose or draw, but then you see them. They go quiet for a while because I reckon my thoughts are most of them are reconsidering whether or not that was where they want to be, because the damage that comes with that extra power, and if you're not conditioned for it, if you spent your whole career sparring guys for 147 and you go up to 160, you're not conditioned for that. I don't care who you are. The power that comes with that extra two weight classes is just going to cause immense damage. And I think there's a reason why after some of these, what I call jump fights, when they go up multiple divisions, they go very quiet. And I think they'd be with their team assessing, shit, man, that was a mistake. We won the fight, but I got the tripe beat out of me. And I've seen that happen here in Australia with a fighter who's gone up and had a go, and first thing he said was, shit, I'm going back down where I belong. That's crazy. Weren't ready for it, and didn't even know it was going to be that intense or that much difference in power. So it's an interesting thought. I just something I thought I'd ask you guys, because you've seen it as well. It's becoming a bit more prevalent. There's a lot of people talking about jumping weight classes, and I'm not too sure whether they get the outcome until they've actually experienced it.
I think one of the reasons it's becoming trendy is I think some of those guys don't want to fight a certain fighter within their own division. So it's it's they can say they won a title in another division, but it's actually an easier fight as they move up, and they pick off an easier champion outside of the division. But another guy you might see do that pretty soon is Boots Ennis. He may be invading that division too pretty soon.
Yeah, agree. I think it's a little bit of that. I think there's a thing, it's almost called division shopping, like weight shopping.
Yeah.
Having a look up and down, above and beyond your weight class to see who might be an easier mark, and in the process of that, giving you an opportunity to avoid someone in your division that you just don't want to fight for whatever reason. But I do think there's a big price to pay, and I think some of them that you've seen.
Glenn, not to cut you off, I think that's kind of why Boots has been staying at 147, because 154 is much tougher than 147.
Yeah, they're bigger, they're stronger, and there's not a big gap. Like it's not like it's less skilled than 154. Like you're still
There's
dealing
no
with,
there's no
so-
easy place to navigate D style at 154. It's just Madrimov, Buhagic, even the guys who aren't names. These are
Murtazaliev
guys.
is a good fighter.
I
Murtazaliev.
would say, I would even go so far as to say to you now that if we sat here and rattled off, the top 10 guys in the 154s, they're all red hot, and there's no other division that's got 10 guy deep.
It's
Yeah,
the best
and there's
division.
also like the up and like
best
obviously
division.
you have. We talked about Nikita, and then there's Xander Zayas. And there's other fighters coming
Oh
up.
yeah,
in that division.
and they're in the next. They're in the next category that could easily make the top 10, top 15, and then you've got 15 deep. I mean, that's 7. Let's say it's 14 deep. That's 7 fights with the best against the best. Name me another division that can do that.
You
So,
don't have one.
and I do want to ask you, Murtazaliev, obviously he's Russian.
Yep.
Tim Tszyu has Russian blood, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, and I believe Causin lives over there. Well, was
Yes.
there ever any consideration, or discussion, or offer of having a fight in Russia?
No. Very difficult at the moment with the situation over there, and in terms of logistically being able to move people in and out, and even commercially being paid.
Like all
and
the
those
sanctions
things.
and stuff?
Yeah, a lot of embargoes and sanctions in place, and very much not discussed. It's an unstable position, so better to play it safe for everyone concerned. And I did talk to Kostya about Murtazaliev, and his attitude is always been the same. The Russian fighters are very difficult fighters. They don't always show it, but they in the ring on the night will make your life a misery. So we were expecting a very, very tough fight. Tim's preparing for a very tough fight, but yeah, it's exciting, mate. It wouldn't matter who's getting in the ring with Tim next. The fact that it's an opportunity for Tim to go back to championship level and have another belt is just amazing. We're really, really happy for that, and we're excited for what lays ahead for Tim after that. So one step at a time, mate. We'll take care of. We'll go to Florida on October 19, and then we'll talk to you further about what's next for Tim.
So just to be short, because we've had people in the chat like, is this guy this? Is that guy? If I go over every dude, we're going to be here forever. But so just from my understanding, you're going to do this fight. You're not looking past Murtazaliev, and then once you're done with this fight, you're going to see what it's open-ended on what's next. But you are going to stay active. Have I got that correct?
100%. And when I said that we are seriously looking at Tim Tszyu again in 2024 before the year's out, that is the case. That's planning in place now. I won't release information on that. We're focusing on Murtazaliev, but that's what we do, Tim, and that's what Tim wants. And so the only criteria for that is that he gets through the fight. He has no injuries. His welfare is great. He's feeling good. He gets a rest, and then we go again. And now it might not be. It might, through circumstances, roll into 2025. But just know that's how we look at Tim. Tim will stay very, very busy. And if opportunities are there and guys seriously want to fight Tim Tszyu and they offer us what we need to keep moving forward, then we're going to seriously look at it.
Definitely. Glenn, you're managing, I counted about 9 fighters right now. You got a fight venue that they just opened over there in Newcastle. One of your fighters is Tim Tszyu, which is a big name. Of course, you got Nikita, etc. You're very, very busy, man. So we definitely appreciate your time. Any final words you want to say before we let you go?
No, mate. No, just it's always nice to catch up with you guys. We appreciate the support. I know you guys go out to a very big Mexican base, and we love our Mexican supporters, and we love the association the Tszyu family's had for a long, long time with the Mexicans, and great respect from us to the Mexican fighters and Mexican culture. We have since the Fundora fight grown exponentially in terms of Tim's popularity in the United States. I think looking back at that fight, even though we took a loss, the circumstances and the warrior spirit that was shown was probably the best launch we could ever have into the United States market on a pay-per-view show with Amazon Prime, and we've got a lot of new support out of that. And I know the Americans are excited to see Tim Tszyu back fighting on American soil. And look, it's a great time to be in boxing. There's so much going on. There's great fights happening all around the world. So we should be enjoying it. We should be positive and upbeat about it, and just enjoy the fact that we've got such great talent and great entertainment to watch on a weekly basis around the world. So nice to chat with you guys again. I hope to chat with you again either before Tim's fight or afterwards, but look forward to our next round of discussions.
For sure. Everyone, make sure if you're watching, follow Fight Life Management on Instagram and on Facebook. They do have those pages, so make sure you follow that. Glenn, we thank you for coming on, brother.
Thanks, Glenn.
My pleasure, boys. We'll see you soon. Take care.
That's good. The one and the only Glen Jennings, guys. Okay, so Calix, like what? I mean, any final words before we wrap this one out?
154, red hot. I mean, you and I talk about this all the time. What a division.
Yeah.
What a division.
Man.
Like, even these are, Tim Tszyu is a 4-1 favorite as far as the betting odds. I was looking at them this morning.
I'm surprised to hear that. Wow.
The betting odds for, if you look at Madrimov, if you look at Buhachik, if you look at Murtazaliev,
look, Murtazaliev, he's not going to Florida and saying, "Here, Tim, here's your belt."
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a fight. I think Tim wins, but man, it's going to be a good fight.
These are brutal fights. This is a tough division. You look at 140, the historically, the historic divisions, right? Welterweight and middleweight. Those are the ones that are down. But in between that, you've got this division, and it's the best division in boxing in between those historic divisions. And all these fighters are piling up. And like y'all said, even the next crop of fighters coming up, a guy like Iriarte, who's campaigning at welterweight right now, but he's big. That's another guy that's going to be at 154, likely in 3-4 years. Another hot prospect. So you got prospects coming up there. A guy like Nikita Tszyu, a prospect there. But on top of that, you got a Boots Ennis, who I think one of the reasons, I was kind of alluding to it, that he's been staying at welterweight, even though he's a big welterweight and there are bigger names at 154s. I think these guys see what's up there. I think they see that there are no easy fights. There's no easy outs. And 147 is more comfortable.
It's like that Rocky song. You know what I mean? There ain't no easy way out. Like that's a theme song to this division, bro. And let me tell you something. It is sad what's happening to 160. Like to see the middleweight division, the welterweight division, it's just like it's just bad. Like these are two glamour divisions, historical divisions. I grew up watching. Like I don't remember welterweight ever being bad till now. Like my whole life, actually, from when I was like, from you could go all the way back to Ray Leonard. You could go back to like Whitaker, and then later, the De La Hoyas, that Ike Cortez and Trinidad, and then you had just I mean, the Cottos, Mayweathers. I mean, that division has been like an unbelievable division. I don't know what happened. Middleweight again, just they used to call like that was a glamour division too. I don't know what happened. However, 154 and is a great division for sure, and that's the division between those two, and that's where it's at. So can't wait.
It is
right.
It is that is the best division in boxing. It is.
No, let me tell you something. I'm looking forward to that fight.
I just look at all the matchups you can do there. It's like you can do any number of matchups there, and they're all great because it's not only that these are talented fighters, they're entertaining fighters as well. And if you look at when Bud moves up, he has a tougher time, right? I think if Spence does fight again, he's going to have a tougher time at 154 than he had at 147. This is just a tough division. I think it's a different breed of fighter. We said that about 140 for a while, right? That 135 and 147 were flashier, but 140 was that division where it was just a bunch of good, tough fighters. And now we have, it's not just good, tough fighters anymore. These are great fighters. at
Mhm.
154, and they're tough and they're entertaining. It's a red hot division. It's the best division in boxing.
It's a red hot division. So we're spoiled at the moment with this division. I'll just say that. One more thing, I'll before we go. I bet the 7 to 12 in a way.
I did too.
I made that bet, and it hit. But I just want to ask you this: I
was
never seen this
shocked.
before.
I was shocked that it hit.
Well, I wasn't. I'll tell you why. Because the only reason that fight was happening is because it's a stay busy fight. And what do you want to do a stay busy fight? Because you want to put rounds in. Why do you want to put rounds in? Because you want to stay sharp. It doesn't do anything for him to knock the guy out in the first 2 rounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew he was going to carry him to some capacity. Now, maybe I'm a little surprised. Like I wasn't sure he was going to make it the 7th, but I knew for sure past the 3rd, 4th round, right? But there was that window, and but I never seen this before, Calix. He threw his back out, like he injured his back.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell does dude break his back like with body? Like I never. This is amazing, bro. This guy's making dudes throw their backs out. And I was hearing Sam Goodman speaking of No Limit. I mean, he's over here talking about how he knows how to beat. Like Sam, I appreciate the confidence, but he's got no shot.
Yeah,
Goodman has no shot against Inoue. He just doesn't.
So Inoue, another guy who's going to stay super active, and I think he'll be back by December against Goodman, and that's going to be another beatdown. But there are multiple things going on here. So he was a 50-1 favorite in this fight. Inoue is at that point where Pacquiao was at that point, Canelo was at that point to a degree, to where these guys are almost penalized for how great they are. Right? They'll fight a certain fight and they're like, oh, he's just fighting that guy, and he's such a huge favorite. We see Canelo against Caleb Plant. He was like a 10-1 favorite, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. And 50-1 favorite against the top 10 guy in the weight class. And people say that and they say that guy's just a nobody. He's a 50-1 favorite, but it's more of a credit to how great Inoue is. We're dealing with a special generational talent, an all-time great.
Yeah, and he's going to be back in a couple of months. So for all the guys that were criticizing him because, why is he fighting that guy? Like, Inoue is not the guy that fights only once a year, guys. Like that's not Inoue. You know what I mean? So I'm hearing all types of stuff.
Yeah, Vegas 2025.
Dude, you know what? That probably has to be a must go because he may never fight in the U.S. ever again.
I think that'll be his one fight in the U.S. And then I'm just telling y'all, and nothing's stopping this from happening. Nobody's gonna derail this. Inoue versus Junto, Tokyo Dome at 122. Good Lord.
It's probably gonna break all records over there. Like it's crazy.
Good Lord, what a fight. What a fight.
What a fight. Look, there's a lot of boxing takes to talk about, a lot more to talk about.
But I wanted to ask you real quick, do you think Inoue has he solidified himself as the guy in boxing? Like he's the guy now.
He just threw a dude's back out. Like yes.
The only thing that makes me question it is, people sort of have a point with Usyk and Fury. But
okay.
I mean, with Usyk beating Fury and the rematch, but man, Inoue.
Look, I'll be honest. I mean, Usyk, you could definitely argue, probably the most accomplished, right, on paper. But I will say this, and this is no offense to the heavyweights or nothing. I mean, it really isn't, or to cruiserweights. The talent in the lower weight classes they're just more skilled fighters. It's the truth, right? And now people think the opposite. They think that the small guys are not skilled, right? Like, and the reason they think that is because it's very fast paced. They're throwing a lot of punches, and they think it's just all offense and no defense. But when you look at the numbers, you're not getting hit at higher percentages. They're just fighting at a much faster pace. It's fast speed chess is what it is. And what should all the arguments out are, look at how easily he destroyed Fulton, right? Oh, he's going to move up and fight a real athletic American now, not the unskilled dude. No, he went in there and he just absolutely annihilated him. It was one of his easiest fights ever, right? Even though he was moving up. We keep talking about the guys. Glenn just talked about, and it's true, the guys that move up to 154, it's like, whoa, it's a lot. He's moved up several weight classes in a way. right? And he's still looking dominant. He just threw a dude's back out. Right, like I never seen that before. This is crazy. The dude like, oh wait, I'm good. Whoa, he threw his back out. But my point is this.
His punches just.
I just think that I just believe it. I just believe like Inoue's resume is real. It's not a mirage. All those world champions he beat is real. All those fighters he beat, that's real, right? Do I wish he would have campaigned maybe at 115 against like the Chocolatitos, Gallos, Rada? Yes, because he would have had those wins on his resume. Just think about that, right? But he didn't. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, he is where he is now. To me, he's the man right now in boxing. It's just the way I feel about it. And he's the current #1 pound for pound on the planet. And that's no disrespect to Crawford, to Canelo, to Usyk, to anybody. All those are all talented, great fighters, right? But I think this is Inoue's playground, Calix, and he's playing on it. You know what I mean? Boxing's his playground, bro. Like he's in that ring like nothing, bro. Like he's making it look easy. It is nuts, bro. I never in my life seen a guy get knocked down and say, "Oh, you're in trouble now. It's gonna whoop your ass." Like I never seen like it's amazing, and I don't think people are appreciating him. Unfortunately, I believe a lot of Canelo fans are trying to criticize him because they don't like the criticisms Canelo gets, but they're in different paths of their career. Canelo's at the tail end of his career. Inoue's right smack in the middle of his prime is where Inoue's at. So we're judging differently here. Inoue will be back in a couple months, and it's a privilege to watch him. I mean, I'm just saying and if a guy is overmatched, he beats them as if they are overmatched. He doesn't carry them for 12 rounds. He doesn't go the distance. We knew he was going to knock him out. That's what he did. Even while carrying him, he threw the guys back out. All right. I mean, it just is what it is. Sam Goodman's next. Sam Goodman is one of the top guys at 122. I hope he fights MJ and he takes care of business and clears it out. And then I believe he's going to give a run at 126. Will he look the same at 126? We won't know till he's there. Right. But I think he will.
Yeah. I just don't see any weaknesses. I don't. If you're the opponent, and you're the trainer, and you're watching film on him, I don't see.
Well, when he goes up in weight class, the punch resistance of his opponents and the power and strength of their opponents increases. So we're going to see how that changes things, right? And one of the reasons, Calix, I felt it was worth it to bet the 7 or 12 was because if you look at his last 10 fights, most of them have gone over 6 rounds because he's having to piece them apart first before he takes them out. Right. And guys, they're just going to get bigger. It's going to take them more time. That even happened when Manny Pacquiao was probably the GOAT in terms of moving up. Right. Even he had to break guys down and even stop knocking guys out at one point because they were just a lot bigger. People just forget how much bigger everybody was than Manny Pacquiao 147. Yep. People just forget that. Like he was a very small 147 pounder. Right. Look, there's a lot more to talk about in terms of the world of boxing. If Calix is available, we could do an HCP show tomorrow on his channel. Yep. And also the roundtable tomorrow on Ringside Reporter. Make sure you check that out. We appreciate everybody. Shout out to Glenn. Shout out to everybody from Australia. If you're watching from Australia, comment, hit the like button, and that is it. We're out of here. Peace.
Peace. God bless.
11, 10, 9, 8, 7.